I don't think.
Sorry, I forgot to start the recording.
Yeah, no worries.
I started anyway now because otherwise we will have luck. So continue.
So you both can definitely retry when they notice the failure happens. There are a few links that I found where people say that they've had several issues, etc., and then they added these retry functionalities. Wait, let me find my document again. Where did I put it? Yeah, and I found that for Crane, if a push, for example, gets broken midway, you cannot restart it because it does it in a single big patch request. So that was definitely an issue that was people discussed, but it never got resolved. So it is being used in low network use cases. There are some solutions, but it's definitely not perfect.
So pushing, I'm guessing, because the OCI distribution spec has like a description of like retriable artifact pushing and also chunking of artifacts, but there's no requirement to actually implement it. And because like there are a lot of things missing in the actual distribution spec to implement it properly also. So it's mostly not the client side issues, but like, yeah, a lot of clients will, if you have like a 10 gigabyte layer, it will try to push the whole layer as like what in one go basically, instead of like trying to chunk it up because yeah, so that's obviously going to be an issue. But like or is it like it depends on how much push support we're gonna have, if it's like the focus is read only. But I do agree with like it would be interesting to explore kind of the pulling part of it and like how well or how poorly will it eventually behave in very constrained environments.
Yeah, kind of a resumable pool, right? Can you resume a pool that, yeah, so maybe kind of a pool resume, right? So I think that this is an interesting question to answer. Like, is it possible to resume a pool?
I don't. Yeah,
I didn't find anything about it. I doubt it, but I can dig more into.
You looked on it already, yeah.
Yeah, there is very little talking about problems mid pull, mid push, or network, that kind of stuff.
I know that these are issues. So,
what was that?
I know that these are issues, and I think we might actually have to end up like implementing solutions ourselves, using things like maybe our overlay DB or something like that in between Harbor to basically chunk artifacts would be an option.
Okay.
So, but I think we should figure out what the limitations are, maybe like in parallel, and then like have it as an issue basically, and just say, yeah, we don't know, and then if we can prove that it's actually an issue, then we should probably work on it. But I think like let's just keep it as an issue and not block us too much.
I did find one interesting thing about Crane where somebody had problems pushing to Docker when they had very, very slow internet connection speed, like 200 kilobytes a second, something like that. And they did found a fix where they created a buffer where it would aggregate data together and then send it as a buffer, and that would fix the solution for very slow speed. So I know that at least Crane has that implemented.
Yeah, but these are interesting problems, and I think it would be very like I think we also need to find people who have these types of constrained German-like internet connections.
And yeah, and also kind of a measurable, right? So I think maybe we can see that we can or traceable in a way that you can kind of do some client-side tracing or measure it, right? So that you can identify that the problem is related to connectivity. But I think this is more of a later stage to watch for. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, from my side, this looks good. So we have a kind of already like the first Hello World application. And yeah.
I think like the only thing, and this is from my own experience, is let's not introduce binaries into this project. Like anything that we're doing, please can we use Go libraries that we can import? Because as soon as you start shelling out to actual binaries that you're baking into your Docker image, you're opening like a whole new can of worms, basically, of other issues that come in.
Definitely, right. I mean, I totally agree. So wrapping CLIs is definitely not an option. I mean, Skopeo is written in Golang, so we could definitely import it and use this, right? So there is definitely a possibility of doing so. I mean, the case here from Roald is basically telling that this application was not designed for that, right? And this is how I read it. I'm not thinking about it, kind of executing shell commands on,
What's the best practice here then? Like, is it to build Docker files that actually build from source to create a Docker image and then pull that in to get the binary, or like what?
So
I understand the security implications, but like, what's the real solution?
Well, like so my background is I've worked a lot on a project called Flux that does like a lot of continuous delivery solution stuff, and historically it has always imported Git as a binary basically into the image, and also other stuff like kubectl and Helm, and generally for long-term maintenance purposes, and also additionally any attempt at doing anything multi-tenancy becomes basically impossible when you're relying on operating system configuration that your binary is reading somehow. And I know that Skopeo might do that also, where it reads some configuration file in the OS instead of you passing it something. So that's like my general idea is if it's in between two solutions that where one is basically a binary that you're downloading into the Docker image compared to importing something as a Go library, I would much rather prefer using a Go library because there's so many issues that just come with it, even if it's like a cheap solution initially.
Right. So the Go library is, you control it from, you can actually control how it's configured, right? So you do it through like environment variables or whatever. Whereas if it's a binary that reads like etc, mybinary.conf, now you're having to do, like volume shares into it and all that other stuff and managing and versioning the conf files and all that stuff. So that's a pain in the ass. It doesn't work. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And you end up with like race conditions everywhere where you're, if you're multi-threading anything, you end up with like, okay, now we need to figure out how to lock this and stuff like that. So
so then the preferred way is to pass any kind of configuration as environment variables to the Docker images. Is that like, and then that goes into code that then drives the Golang library? Is that
it's generally any interaction with like OCI layers and stuff like that should be implemented in Go so we can import them rather than implemented in like some other language like C or something like that, where we're then like even I wouldn't recommend using CGO and stuff like that where you're doing like C bindings between Go because done that it was a bad idea. It creates a lot more work. So yeah.
Okay. I'm fairly new to Docker and Kubernetes and stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
My time at the LF was in Hyperledger and blockchains and stuff, and I come from the browser world, and so anyway, forgive me if I'm asking ignorant, questions out of ignorance because I'm curious.
I think it's totally fine. I think that's what we're all here for. So it's just my own experience. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that I've done it before and I regret it, basically.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I also had this same experience, like dealing with the CLI commands is always chasing like the edge cases, because there are like plenty of those and things are always working differently. And I think the other use cases, like if we're taking a look at Skopeo, is that the configuration option that David mentioned, right? It's also kind of built into this CLI tool and like shelling it out as a library, right? And addressing it directly. You will need to create a wrapper around that as well. So I would take a look at Skopeo to see if this is feasible, but I mean, if we have the same capabilities with Crane, I would just should go with Crane directly. And you know, like if there is no added value apart from that, I mean, yeah, we should just go first with Crane and see if we then hit some limitation where we need to see that Skopeo solved it better or differently, that we benefit from that. Because I doubt that there is any deviation or optimization on the Skopeo side that's differently than Crane.
One use case I found that Skopeo had and not Crane was the sync functionality, where you can automatically sync to registries without needing to do anything else. And I thought that was something that Skopeo had over Crane, but that was the only aspect.
Yeah, you could rebuild it quite easily. It's basically scanning the catalog and then that's
I'm guessing it only works where specific registries implement specific discoverability features in the registry anyway.
Catalog endpoint.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not always there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Welcome, Florian. Welcome, Jan.
Hello. Thanks. Hi.
Hello.
Okay. Yeah, apart from that, I mean, this is like the current status. If you out kind of a community, Harbor community, please leave a message in the Harbor community PR, you know, so from everyone, like on satellite. Just vote, you know, comment here. Exactly, David already did it. Thank you very much. Yeah, please comment and help Roald get this across the line. I will also make my comment and then we can discuss this on this PR, and then Roald can update the description, and yeah, we can help him this way to get a nice proposal and get it accepted.
I tried to get into the Slack channel and it says I need an account. I put it here in chat, my email address.
Oh yeah, I can send you the account. It's quite simple. It's called Slack CNCF. So you need to get to this URL.
Okay.
And based on this URL, it will ask you, you know, for your email to send you the invitation with this service. And then the invitation will be sent to you, and then you can log in.
Sweet. I will take care of that now. So we're just in the proposal stages for the summer project.
Yep. In parallel, of course, there's also the development going on. Then, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, from my side, I think we are through with today's session. So
I think the only thing that would be good maybe is to create some sort of skeleton, just so like it becomes a bit easier to work on suggested changes in the future. So kind of structuring stuff up, having a main Go file.
Oh yeah.
Starting to define interfaces maybe and stuff like that, so that we can like start having discussions about these types of things, because if we at least implement things as interfaces, we can kind of have a bit better discussion around the architecture also, maybe.
Yeah. Discussing the interfaces, and I think then the next step would be then, kind of implementing the use cases into the project.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like the first use case is kind of the most relevant one to start implementing, but it's either way. Either the first use case kind of drives the interfaces and how they look, or we set up some sort of an interface.
I made the experience from like various projects that if you're doing one by one, you end up with having a interface that is tailored for the first use case, and then you have to adapt it for the second use case. And if you start in parallel with both use cases, you design automatically the interfaces that are adaptable to both use cases, and there is a less rework needed for the second use case. So this is my kind of a past experience from 20 years of engineering. So if you start one by one, you kind of need to redesign things more often. And if you do it parallel, it seems to be more work, but at least on the interface side, it's will become stable.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I was just thinking about more like the simple implementation that gets us something that we can actually test, especially with ground control and stuff like that. But I don't know how I want to do this. If I should just create a PR, or if somebody else wants to just create a PR, just so we have something to work off of.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead. If you assign it to yourself, it's fine.
I'll create an issue, and I'll just so it's tracked also. Let's see here, too many tabs. Other than that, I'm kind of happy with today.
All right. Yeah, then from my side, there is no other topics, and I would wrap it up for today.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Great.
Have a nice
Thank you very
day.
much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.